Do you remember that wedding from a month ago? Yeah, like that one that you needed to start editing yesterday? But you also need to prep today for your wedding tomorrow, and you're leaving for your first vacation in forever on Monday. So what do? It seems that the only creative part of your edits are the excuses you're going to have to give your clients. We have the solution, Wedditor. Wedditor is a team of top wedding editors, project managers, and account coordinators that help us wedding filmmakers edit. They match the right editors with your style so you can spend your time where it matters most, on your business. Nick and I both use Wedditor, and we don't know how we would run our companies without them. It takes a team to build an amazing business, and you shouldn't try to do it all on your own. Head over to howtofilmweddings.com/Wedditor to help you free up your time so that you can focus on growing your brand. Be sure to use promo code HTFW for $50 off your first project. Wedditor, more than freelance, more than outsourcing.
You know, a lot of times we go into these wedding days and it's like, is my exposure right? I need to get this, and this, and I need to make sure my lighting is here. And it kind of distracts from what is it that you are really capturing.
Hello and welcome to the How to Film Weddings podcast. My name is Nick Miller and I am joined by my best good buddy, Mr. John Bunn. John, how are you doing today?
I'm doing really well. We just got off the call with Kaleb and Elaine from KEJ. I'm going to be honest, I've been waiting for this episode for a long time. Kind of been lurking for a little bit, just watching what they're doing, the films they're producing. It's so refreshing just to be around them. Like, I'm inspired after our talk. I know you will be too. I got goosebumps one time. I almost cried one time. So it was a really great episode.
Yeah. We talk about all sorts of stuff, and a couple of the big things that they really touch on. One is kind of their why. We asked them, why are you doing this? And I mean, it got a little misty-eyed, with Elaine talking about this story of a film that they were able to create, and then a lot of the misconceptions that we all have on this world, that someone, just because they have 10,000 Instagram followers, that must mean that they're doing business well, and if you only have 500 Instagram followers, then your business is awful or something like that. So we kind of peel the layers of the onion back a little bit and kind of talk about some of those misconceptions. But anyway, we are really excited about this episode, so let's go ahead and jump on in. Well, Kaleb and Elaine Jimenez of KEJ Productions, thank you so much for joining us on the How to Film Weddings podcast today.
Yeah, we're stoked to be here.
Stoked.
Yeah. So for our listeners that, might not know who you guys are, why don't you just kind of give us a quick rundown of, who you are, your business, when you got started, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah. So, 5 years ago now? We started almost 5 years ago. We started KEJ Productions. We started as a production company. Elaine and I are both professional audio engineers, and we met as audio engineers. So.
Classic audio engineer story. I love it. Heard that a lot of times.
So it quickly turned into us being wedding filmmakers because a production company is really hard to manage.
Well, not just that. I think we realized, so how we kind of got into wedding films was somewhat by accident. So, my husband is what I would call the ultimate enthusiast. If you're familiar with the Enneagram, he's a 7, and he is a 7 through and through, which means for him to be fulfilled, he's pretty much picking up something new like every quarter. And I'm the total opposite. And we were married for about a year and a half. We were planning a vacation to Thailand, which was like a total dream trip for us. Kaleb at the time was kind of already traveling all over the world as a production manager. And the one place we hadn't been together was Southeast Asia. So we were like, cool, let's go to Thailand together. And he was like, well, I need a GoPro. Now you have to understand, at this time, like, we're audio engineers, we're like newly married, trying to figure this whole thing out, trying to figure out finances. And I'm like, why does this man want a $400 camera? Like, I mean, I get it. He's an enthusiast. Like, he needs to be picking up new things to stay, happy about life. And so To be honest, though, as I said, I'm the opposite. So I was super annoyed by that. And I was talking to a mentor and she was like, you need to let your husband dream. Like, let him get the camera. And I was just really personally convicted by that. So I went home and I said, okay, Kaleb, if you can figure out how to get this camera outside of like our normal income from what we're bringing in as, freelancing audio engineer, what I was making with the company I was with at the time as an engineer, I'm like, then go get your camera and we'll take it to Thailand. And then I went off to work. Well, when I came home from my 9 to 5 that day, my husband had a full-on garage sale on our front lawn.
That is awesome. I love that. I love that.
This man is serious about this camera. And I mean, he had DVDs I was still watching out there and everything. I was like, okay, whatever. So he made the money to go get this GoPro. And that was the start of our film career. We went to Thailand. We edited this terrible vacation video. And one of our friends saw it and they were like, you guys know how to edit. You want to film our wedding? We just got engaged. And Kaleb and I were like, sure, we had fun editing this Thailand video. Let's see if we
Yeah.
And that GoPro was our safety cam for that wedding.
It was the worst. But I mean, we did it and we created a highlight film for them. And we both were like, man, I think we kind of have a knack for this. Maybe let's build a website. And that was the start of KEJ Productions, the videography company.
So cool. And so what year was that?
That was our first full wedding was June of 2015.
Okay. So 2015. So finishing up like almost 5 years of shooting. What did you charge for the first couple of weddings?
Our first 3 or 4 weddings, we didn't charge anything, I don't think, did we?
No, I remember that first year. So once we did that wedding in 2015, it was like, okay, we're going to build a website and kind of now what? So we did a couple friends' weddings for free because we needed a portfolio, of course. And then I think we signed up for a few advertising things. And the first wedding we booked was like $1,600. And I remember, oh my gosh, I remember when we got that deposit. I was like, Kaleb, people are paying us so much money to do this. We're going to be rich. We can get out of student loan debt. Like, this is like the hustle. This is the ultimate side hustle. We're going to crush this.
Yes.
And it was really funny that by the end of, I want to say it was like December 2015, we just invested in education. And I think actually Ray Romans was the first that we watched. And I remember watching that and being like, okay, we can charge minimum $2,500. And right then we just upped our pricing from whatever it was, starting at $800 or something ridiculous to $2,500. And I remember that as well, booking that for the first time at the beginning of 2016 and being like, what? We're going to get out of student loan debt. That was our whole motivation, our first year of business. So.
The funny thing was that I truly don't care about money. There's been times where I've been out on freelance and I forget to invoice people and then they get so pissed at me. And so I'm sitting here and we still have our gigs. I'm touring, Elaine's doing her thing, and then we're doing all these side hustle gigs. And I remember it's 2016 or something like that. I was sitting there, I'm like, man, I know how much we're charging. I know how many films we're doing. I was like, where the heck is all this money going? And I had this realization then. And then shortly after, Elaine was like, oh, by the way, we're out of debt.
That's so cool.
It was like that. It was crazy, man.
Yeah,
it was
we
really
paid it
crazy.
off that year. So our second, at that point, we were a year into business, mid 2016. I remember being like, we're going to get at it. I don't know if you follow Dave Ramsey, but I was gazelle intense.
Yeah, you were.
Get out of this. And by the end, I think we had a goal of being debt free by 2017, and we crushed that thing by October. In a matter of months, every little bit of money that we were making from KEJ was just being dumped. Now, there are some terrible things that happened because we were so zealous. We overbooked. like crazy. So in 2016, we had planned, I remember we were sitting across from each other at a table, and it's like, okay, if we could just film one wedding a month to show that we're active and that we're in the industry, go to networking events, like we're going to be good. And by the end of 2016, we had filmed 21 weddings, and we were already booked for 20 the following year by like October. And I remember being like, okay, great, we're out of debt. Oh my gosh, I have 10 films backlogged and it's November. And I pretty much just cried all the way through the holiday season.
Yeah.
So that was like a huge lesson for us. Pricing, demand, and we learned that stuff really early on.
As you're talking about this, it's really interesting because everyone we talk to, like, their story is exactly the same. It's like, holy cow, someone paid me $1,200 for this. That's so much money. I don't know what to do with all this. In my first year, I booked 25 weddings, and then I loved it getting all this money, but now I have 10 films to edit. And now it's like, that's like everyone's story. And it's one of those things where, you hear people like us, say, hey, you might want to raise your prices earlier, and this is why, but it's almost sadly one of those things that people just do, even though they hear other people do it, but they don't change their ways, because it's like you learn by error, or you learn by, what not to do or whatever. So if you're new and you're listening to this and you hear Kaleb and Elaine's story and you're kind of, oh, I got a lot booked, like, it might be a good time to reevaluate your pricing and how many you've got going the next year, because especially if you have a day job, like, that backlog can just be a crazy, crazy beast.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure. It definitely... We're really big on like quality of life these days, and now like in these times we're like, man, I love having some Saturdays off to like just go to our market or
imagine
like,
that
stuff. So
hang out with people.
Yeah.
Wow.
What? See people when they're off work and they're not having a good time, and you're watching them
Be
from
out
behind
in
the camera.
Daylight.
yeah.
All right, so the story, like, I love listening to your story, and also I'm a very big Dave Ramsey fan. We've talked about him a lot on the podcast. Definitely cool to, like, hear it. Before I talk about what you guys are charging, like, now and stuff, what did that feel like to you whenever you paid off your last debt?
Man, it was the most freeing moment I think that we've ever had in our lives.
It changed the game. It changed everything. Like,
it changes the opportunities that you have, that you can
that
take.
you choose.
Yeah.
Also, and we operate our lives like personally debt free, but that's the same for our business. So a lot of the discipline that we learned as we were getting out of debt, we applied to our business. So we're not buying, gear brand new, or buying it used, or buying it cash.
Love these people.
When we scaled our business that way. Like Kaleb said, like, that first wedding was the GoPro, a borrowed T3i, and a GH4 that we had rented. Yep. And then we filmed it with 2 lenses. So Kaleb was on the wide with a gimbal. Oh my goodness, remember that first Chinese gimbal?
Let's take a shift on this conversation real quick.
It was like the jankiest, but he did it and he made it work. But, then from there, once we booked that first $1,600 wedding, it was like, okay, I think we can buy the GH4. And we bought our first GH4. And so I would just encourage anyone listening that wants to get into this business, you do not have to go out and spend thousands upon thousands of dollars, like, scale it, rent gear. We're in a position now where we're pretty comfortable, and we still rent gear before we go and purchase it. We just finished renting a lens not once but twice, just to make sure we really like it before dropping, $1,600 or whatever.
I have said on this podcast a lot that I wish that I would have rented, because I said, oh, the A7S II, love it. It's the new camera of the future. sold all my stuff. I bought 3 of them. We shot 2 weddings and we hated them. I mean, hated them. And then we ended up losing like $1,000, selling them and getting other stuff. So yeah, I love that tip of just renting stuff before you buy it. John, you got something there?
I just think so. Like our company, Redeemed Productions, 100% debt free, and like the choices that we can make when we don't have payments looming over us are so much different than if I owed. I've done it where I leased cameras, and like when the C100s came out, I don't even remember how long ago. I think it was like 2012 or something. We leased 2 of them, and there was like no interest, but it was still like payments. And then it was great when the months were good, but then I remember like that first payment whenever like we didn't have that much coming in that month, and it was like, I'm never ever doing this again. And so like that was the only debt we ever operated at all in our business. But like the ability to, like, if you're in a position where you have debt and you have all these payments, and somebody contacts you and they have a $2,000 budget, but you charge $4,000, you're more likely to bend and take this wedding over here that's nothing like what you really want, just so you can have that money. And so that if you're running, your business with debt and you're feeling overwhelmed, do what these guys have done. Like take all your extra money, pile it towards that debt so you can be debt free, so you can run and operate your business with freedom. I mean, I'm sure now you guys feel like you guys are completely free to do whatever you want in your business.
Yeah, you can say no. Oof.
Yeah.
The power of no. Like, and you hit the nail right on the head where you're saying like you're more likely to bend when you're indebted to something. It's like, I really need to make that payment, or I just really want to get out of it. That's how we ended up with 31 weddings in a year, because it was literally, if you could write me a check, I'm gonna take it and I'm gonna give it to Sally Mae, because I need to get up from out of that. But once we were free of that, oh my goodness, our second year, I was like, no, left and right. We jacked our prices up, and either the demand was there though as well to be able to do that,
and it helped us. I mean, inevitably it helped us quit our main jobs, because we were able to do, we didn't need that as a safety. Because and I feel like a lot of people do hold on to their jobs and film weddings or photograph, just because it's a safety net. Which it's not like, we kept our jobs because we still were in debt, and even past us getting out of debt, we still had our gigs, but
then it just got to a point where I was like, all right, I'm gonna die if I keep working 90 hours a week.
And I started in, like, I quit doing everything that I was doing, and I was like, okay, I'm just KEJ, let's just do this thing. And Elaine was still working for her company, and I finally got to the point where I was like, Elaine, you gotta quit. Like, I can't do this by myself, because Elaine's our main editor. So I was like, and you guys know how this goes. Like, the editor is the business, basically, so. I think that's what's really admirable about what you guys have done is you took it slow and did the right steps. You didn't get ahead of yourself. You could have just quit your jobs when you had that 1 year, but you wanted to get out of debt. You put in the extra work, so now you can, you've earned your spot doing this, and you didn't like take this huge leap and like make this big risk for your family based on that. And so, that's so admirable. You did say one thing. You said you were able to jack up your prices, which I think is awesome to be able to do when you have that freedom. So why don't you tell the listeners just a little bit about what 2020 might look like, what you guys are charging, and then a little bit, we haven't really heard too much about just like your style, like why you do all this kind of stuff. So maybe just a little bit about like 2020, the price, that kind of thing, and then maybe a little bit about your style. Yeah, so 2020 is pretty cool because we've finally gotten to the point of like, all right, let's put a cap and let's really slow down our bookings, because that's been something that has trended for us. It's like every October we're at 20, like every single time, and it's like it's not frustrating. Like we're grateful for that, but there's also those moments where if we don't leave room, then we can't take those ones that are like epic, and because of our company, like we're very, we've done travel films, we've done overseas weddings. We've done a lot. We're all over the country these days. But there's those. I lost my train of thought. Like we're kind of all over the place whenever it comes to weddings, and I feel like we can, without leaving space for us to take on those really cool, like leaving space to take on like the weddings that we really want and the stories that we really want to tell. Because and everybody has this happen. Like we get those stories in that like the couple is just epic and they're going to Ireland and it's going to be epic, and I'm filming a local wedding, or like we're booked for a local wedding here at a place where I'm just kind of like, cool, it might rain that day here in Florida. So,
but to answer your question, this is a mild tangent. It's a good one though.
Yeah.
I asked a lot of questions in there. I just want to know everything about you guys, so I'm sorry.
So our pricing, it's been quite a journey, but for local, we start at 7 hours of coverage and $5,500. And with that comes a highlight film up to 5 minutes. And we kind of limit that collection to within Orlando. So it keeps us close to home. We're not having expenses come out for travel, etc. And then up from that, which is pretty, I'd say more typical for 2020, our bride is spending between $7,000 and $8,000. And that includes 9 hours of coverage. We feel like that's a nice happy place. If they need more, they can always add it a la carte. And that comes with a slightly longer film. So I'd say we average about, depends on what happens, how many words are in the day, but between 6 and 8 minutes. And that typically comes with doc edits as well. And then,
or a doc edit.
Yeah, a doc
and
edit.
And then we have like a la carte stuff for other things.
Yeah. And then really up from there, when you're getting into like the multi-day, a little bit of travel, that's when it starts pushing towards the 5-figure mark, which I'll be honest, like with where our business is right now, that's like a whole other frontier. Like 5-figure, it's just everything about how you approach it just changes. So we don't get that as often as, let's say, the 7 to 8. And I'm quite happy with our price range in 7 to 8 for just cinematography. Especially here in Florida. I feel like in New York, that's a much easier ask. In other markets, maybe even some in California. But for Orlando, we generally we get told a lot that like, whoa, you're up there. And it's like, well, there are brides booking that here. So if any of y'all are in Central Florida, like, can I just tell you, I really do want to encourage Central Florida cinematographers, videographers, filmmakers, whatever you're calling yourselves these
Videographer.
Videographer. That the money is here and you can stay home and I don't want to say easily. You need to kind of offer an experience and you need to be on top of your game, but you can make 7 to 8 a wedding and go home at night and sleep in your bed at night, and that's one day of coverage.
Yep.
So
I love these people, Nick. I love these people.
Yeah.
And so anywhere, any major city in America, there's money. You can do it. Like, preach. Just keep preaching over there, KEJ.
And we're like Central Florida or Florida in general, we're all seasons. Like there's opportunities. We intentionally do not film summers in Florida.
It's too freaking hot.
Why? Why? It sounds beautiful.
It's like you're sitting on the surface of the sun.
It's not humid. It's probably beautiful, right?
Send me out west, yo. That's how we ended up breaking Colorado, because we looked at each other after that first summer season. We were like, never again. My family's in Colorado. Let's see what we can do in that market.
That's so cool. We know the time suck that is searching for the perfect song for your wedding film. MusicBed has spent years collaborating with artists, bands, and composers to make it easier than ever for anyone to find the right song for their video.
With amazing artists like Chapters, Tony Anderson, and The Light, The Heat, MusicBed is the best place for wedding videographers to get licensed music.
Their subscription service was a life changer for me, especially since all of their subscription music is pre-cleared for every social media platform: Facebook, Instagram, Love Stories TV, and my personal favorite, YouTube, all pre-cleared.
And if you are interested in a free month of a MusicBed wedding subscription, head over to howtofilmweddings.com/musicbed. When you sign up, use the promo code HTFW and you will get your first month for free. We shot a wedding in Seattle this summer. On the Saturday, it was in July, 72 degrees. And all of the bridal party was complaining about how hot it was.
Oh my word! I wish.
Come on, you Pacific.
They have no idea.
Yeah, they have no idea. Anyway, let me shift our conversation just a little bit. And something that's really, I think, cool about you guys and your business. You are a husband and wife team, so you guys, work together. So why don't you just spend a few minutes and kind of break down, kind of your roles. Whether you can kind of do wedding day roles, and then you can go, through booking process and post and all that kind of stuff too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
wedding day.
Yeah, I'll do the wedding day.
Sure.
So I manage most of our gear, and making sure that we have everything we need for the day. I do all the wedding prep, and I made this spreadsheet to make sure that I don't forget anything, because I do that. And then Elaine will help me check it off and stuff like that. But for the most part, through the wedding day, Elaine's pretty much with the bride. We split, for the most part. I'll go and say hi and do our thing, but we're pretty much split between two bags. I'll have a Langley backpack and she'll have her Pelican roller. And so that's kind of how the morning starts. She's with the bride, I'm with the guys, and establishing stuff and those things. So
I don't touch the drone.
Yeah. So any kind of establishing I'll do, and Elaine will just hang out and making sure that she gets all those moments. And from there,
you're typically wide on the gimbal.
Yeah, I'm on a gimbal. We're shooting all Sony. I have a 16 to 35, I think, but those one of those lenses that we rented that we might change. So anyways, so I'm mostly on the gimbal. I carry a handheld A7 III, just to get some groom stuff or whatever. And Elaine has her little, she has a 90 macro and a 24 to 105 Canon. So it's funny as we get further and further into our wedding filmmaking careers, we try to go with less and less and less.
Yep.
And so it's funny how that works out, because whenever we first started, I was I need everything. And now I'm what can I leave?
And as trends, we're talking about trends and stuff with filmmakers and evolution. That is another thing that we hear. So many people that have been in this longer and longer, they're trying to strip and minimize their kit that they bring as much as they can.
Yeah. And what's funny? We have our saying where whenever we first started, everything we loved about this was about story. And you heard what we had. We had just pieced it together and made it happen. But for us, it's well, if you can't get it done with what you had, you definitely can't get it done with what you got, because that's a huge part of we're distracted by our gear. We're distracted by trying to be something else that we're not. And if we can just get it done with what we got, then we're good. Yeah. And so that's kind of
a story.
That's how we've kind of broken down our gear and our packs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, and we have one sticks bag that has all of our stuff. So typically I'm landing that as we go. You know how the day goes. You don't know when things are going to happen. So sometimes I'll set up a reception light in a quick break, just to set it up. I'm okay, I know that's set. And then I am responsible for all of our audio throughout the day, which we are very prideful in our audio, and it hurts whenever it doesn't work right because of our background. And we all know wedding days are crazy, and sometimes it fails. And so we are very big on redundancy within our audio workflow as well. Sure. And yeah, from there it's pretty straightforward. Once we come back together, Elaine and I are okay, now
how is your morning?
Yeah, kind of thing. How you doing? Did you get what you need? And most of the time we don't ask that question, because I just being a husband and wife and not shooting with a second shooter, it's different. Because it's just like, I know you're going to get what you get, and I'm going to get what I get, and we know what to get for the edit.
Right.
And so that's the difference between me second shooting for someone or having a second shooter. I'm like, okay, this is what I need you to get. I just know Elaine's going to get what she gets, you know? So...
what was part 2 of that question? I already forgot.
What? Okay, so what's it look like after the wedding? So who does what? You know, I think Kaleb said that Elaine, you're the primary editor for the wedding film. So
yeah. So this year was a little different. We hired someone, Jordan. Actually, KEJ does not stand for Kaleb and Elaine and Jordan. It was actually funny the first time we got an email saying that, because I was like, Jordan ain't in our business name, but he thought it was funny. We all thought it was hilarious. It actually stands for Kaleb and Elaine Jimenez. But anyway, we hired
Matt Johnson,
super creative Matt. He's hilarious. Anyway, so we hired Jordan. So this year we've kind of adjusted how we do the edit.
Can I jump in real quick? I know, but it's important to the post-production.
Go ahead.
So we've been doing a lot of same-day loops when we can. And so that changes our post-production workflow as well, because we will take a external drive with us to be able to back up as we transition into post.
Yeah. So once the footage actually comes home with us, I'll quick sort all the footage since I know the wedding day, and then it gets passed on to Jordan, who does all of our favoriting or selects if you're in Premiere. And he'll also do any doc edits that were ordered. And then from there, it goes back to me where I do words and story. The way we edit, I know there are a couple of editors that edit this way. And just over the last couple of years, I've noticed kind of our style is always story first. Like that's the thing. Story is priority. And so we'll actually approach the edit from a perspective of music and words first. Before we look at any visual, I'm landing in the music and words. And once that's pretty much locked in, which can take anywhere from 1 to 3 days, depending on how much we were filming and how long the weekend was, from there it'll go to Jordan, who will actually build those sequences. So we discovered early on, and he doesn't have a film background or anything, we kind of trained him from the ground up. But we recognized early on, like, okay, he has a knack for putting moments together, but also he's a musician. Being that we're both musician, he kind of approaches the flow the same way as we do in regards to phrasing and listening for like crescendos in the music and stuff like that. Like he really just
gets it.
He just understands that. And so once that's done, we all kind of review as a group, like, okay, what's not working? What's working? What do we want to punch? What do we want to accent? Is this moment given the justice that it's given? And we ask all those hard questions. And then from there, we'll give Jordan another pass at the edit. And then it goes back to me for final massaging, as we say. And after I massage for eternity, because again, I'm a type 1 and nothing's ever good enough until then Kaleb rips it from my hands and he's like, give me the edit so I can color and master it. And then it'll go to Kaleb, who does pretty much all the fun work that we really all want to do.
But, all the audio and color.
Yeah, audio, color, effects. And then from there, it goes through another round of review for us as a team. And then it's delivered.
No wonder they're so good.
Dude, it's been a crazy year, just trying to figure out the workflow of where we thrive and stuff like that. So and setting up those milestones for us as far as throughout the edit, when we're all checking in, we're all have eyes on it and getting different perspectives, or there's been times when Jordan we'll have a shot that's not so technically perfect, or it's just not right. And I would be like, that ain't right, And Jordan will be like, well, that's going to mean more to the couple than it would because it's not technically right. And I was like, sorry, boss.
Right. It's just awesome. It's awesome to have someone join in on this culture that we've created and just get it. And really, at the end of the day, we want to give our couples something that they look back on. That's not just beautiful, but really just showcases who they are. So you know who the couple is, you know what their wedding day was like, what the experiences was like, and that's really our focus and intention.
I was kind of just wondering, I've been like kind of following you from afar, and we heard that you were going to be at Venture, and we'll talk about that in a little bit, but like just been really impressed with your storytelling, the type of films that you're doing don't feel cookie cutter. Why don't you talk a little bit about just like why you're shooting weddings? What do you love about weddings? What is it that drives you to say, I want to film weddings?
So at the core, I'm a very emotional person. So I love that. I love that. What's different about this career as opposed to everything I've ever done, which was completely technical, audio and design and all that stuff. The difference with this, and I think why I'm still excited about it, is we are able to provide something that feels just completely priceless. Like, I've never been in a field that what you're handing over, obviously there is a cost to it, but man, like I take it back to our wedding day. So we didn't have a videographer, and my parents are celebrating, like we're coming up on 50 years of marriage for them. Well, at our wedding, like my dad stood up and he talked about like marriage and like what it means and all this stuff. And even though I love my wedding photos, like I love them, like man, what I would give to go back to that moment and hear what my dad said and see how people responded to it and see like what was my mom doing at the time when my dad was saying like these beautiful things about her. And so every time I sit down at an edit and we as a team sit down at a wedding film, like these are the things that are going through my head. Like, how can I serve this couple in a way that they look back at this and they're like, wow, I can relive this and connect with this family member that may not be with us anymore. Here's a perfect example. The second wedding we were paid for. So mind you, I actually went back to this wedding and I was like, ooh, white balance. We hadn't learned about that yet. Because there were some serious technical issues. But this bride, the second bride that had ever paid us to do videography, reposted her wedding. This is now 3.5 years later. And her grandfather had just passed. And now till this day, there was a moment in her wedding day, and it was totally spontaneous. Her grandfather stood up and had them, and he prayed over them, and he blessed them. And it was, till this day, we've done over 100 weddings at this point. It was one of the most powerful things we've ever captured. Like the blessing that he prayed over them about their kids and like their careers. And I remember capturing that moment at that wedding. And at the time, we had only filmed 5 at the time, and being like, this is unreal. Yeah. This is special. Like there's something really deep about this. So 3.5 years later, to see her repost that when her grandfather passed away and say, this is the last recording of my grandfather that I have, and he's praying this. It was just like, it was such a moment of clarity for me, where a lot of times we go into these wedding days and it's like, is my exposure right? I need to get this, and this, and I need to make sure my lighting is here. And it kind of distracts from what is it that you are really capturing? Mm-hmm. Like, what is this really going to mean to this couple 10 years down the line, even closer, 3 years down the line, because their grandfather spoke over them, mm-hmm. So that really, it humbles me when I think about that.
Yeah.
And it's just amazing. I think Kaleb and I are just super grateful that we get to play a part like that. It's incredible.
Yeah. And coming from like super thankless job, like
yes.
We can't, from audio engineers, it's like, we're like behind the scenes, and
if it's not wrong, then it's, fine.
Yeah, it's perfect. You don't hear anything. But if it's wrong, then it's like, oh, that guy sucks. He's so terrible at life. And then with this, it's like, not that we need, because I love it because we don't need that, because we see it within the families. We're like, man, I'm so grateful that we were able to give them that moment. And it's like, it's so great in that. But then like having people saying, you know, man, that was my grandfather, and like, thank you for that. It's I'm like, I would have done this for free if like we could have, just to give you that moment. Like, it's amazing. Like, it's so cool. So
that's awesome. Love that.
Yeah, I love that. Love hearing your heart, you know, just behind that. And you know, I can tell that you guys are super passionate about your business and creating these videos, and just love hearing all of that. So
everybody get their tissues and wipe their eyes that's listening.
Yeah,
real quick.
Yeah.
I cry daily.
Give me a second.
Elaine,
I got some dust in my eye here.
Elaine cries all the time, guys, and they're all happy. But we did have to eventually, in our whole process of becoming wedding filmmakers, like there were some times where we would get into the edit and the camera would be like shaking because Elaine's like crying.
I was like, I need a tripod for ceremonies.
I was like, we got to upgrade your sticks, girl. Like, this is not good. This was so funny.
Yeah.
So I know that you guys know this, but we have a Facebook group. And if you're listening to this and you want to join that, all you have to do is go to facebook.howtofilmweddings.com, and that'll take you right to our Facebook group. But we put in our group yesterday, hey, does anyone have any questions? And so now we're going to do our question of the day presented by Wedditor. Wedditor, more than freelance, more than outsourcing. And this one kind of goes back to the husband and wife team. Andrea Schwann asked this question: what has been the biggest challenge and greatest blessing about working together as a husband and wife team?
Challenge and blessing.
You want to talk about the challenge or the blessings?
I would watch a reality show just that followed these two around. I just want to see what happens next. I'm just watching.
You know what? You jump in, I'll think a little bit more.
Okay. That was a very wise choice. I think the challenge is that, and this is for any small business owner, that you could work 24/7 if you want to. And being husband and wife, especially since our office is at home, like our work is in the home. So the challenge is being intentional about shutting that off. This year, it really helped, again, with bringing Jordan onto our team. Like, he comes in at 10 and he's out by 6. And he's very committed to that time. So it's like when Jordan's out, like we're like, okay, we're done for the day. Let's watch The Office, or let's go grab some dinner, or, you know. So just being intentional about your work hours, being intentional even about the conversation. And I think this is a little bit harder for me because I'll talk weddings all day. I'll talk work all day. But I know that's not beneficial to Kaleb. Like, he's like, can we just talk about music, like landscaping, anything? But, you know, let's come up with some other hobbies. So that's definitely the challenge. I think the joy or the blessing.
I think the blessing I think from an outside perspective, like, people are like, cool, you get to hang out with your best friend 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for the rest of your life. And I'm like, have you ever hung out with your best friend 24/7, 7 days? You know, like, it gets a little crazy in this house. And but the cool thing is that, or the blessing, I would say, in this scenario is that I do get to hang out with my best friend 24/7. And we came from, before we got into wedding filmmaking, of like, I got to travel a lot, y'all. Like, I got to do it all. I got to see everything, and it was real cool. And I thought whenever I stopped doing that I would have that FOMO, man.
Once you get married, settle down.
I'm like, dang, now I'm like, I got to do real life now. And the cool thing is, like, because of where KEJ Productions has taken us, like, we get to travel together, man. We get to go overseas, and depending on how we set up our year, like, we can take a month off. Like, we can really enjoy our time together and being intentional. I think it plays a part of the challenge too, of like making sure that our calendar, we're setting time aside for us, we're setting some weekends aside for us to where we're not doing anything. It's challenging in that, but it's also a blessing because we do get to set intentional time for us to hang out together and be husband and wife and not business partners or filmmakers and stuff like that.
Yeah, I definitely hear a lot of the stuff that you're saying because my wife and I are a husband and wife team, so we definitely experience a lot of that kind of stuff. And you're talking about the Enneagram. I'm a 3, so like going to work and like doing that stuff is something that I like enjoy, and I just want to go do it. But she's like, hey, what about me over here? Or we have 2 children. Like go play with them and that kind of stuff. So as I hear husband and wife talk about that, a thing that I hear a lot is even if you have to write it on the calendar, schedule time to be purposeful with your family, on a date night, take a weekend, whatever that be. So anyways, I'm everything you're saying is totally resonating with me, and I totally get that. So
and awesome. there's been awesome. Times like after a wedding, we'll back up all of our footage and then go and hit like a late night eats or happy hour kind of thing. And there was a couple of times there where we're like, let's just leave our phones at home. Let's just be locked in with each other and like talk through what happened in that day or what's going on. Like it's super important to just be intentional. Yeah, for sure.
Awesome.
John?
Holding hand.
Well, I'm sitting here thinking like, I think that the listeners that aren't part of a husband and wife team, because I'm not, and so that does give me, there's pros and cons to everything, and I was actually talking to my 9-year-old daughter about this on the way to school this morning, but like, the pro for me is the fact that like I get done with the wedding and I haven't spent the whole day with my wife, so I can like tell her about what happened or, keep her, so we have like these separate lives, then we can like kind of come together and talk to it, but there's the con of like, man, that'd be so cool to be like experiencing this part of this wedding with my wife. And, and so I think it's just it's always cool to hear from people that are, husband and wife team, not husband and wife team. But the underlying thing that you said about being intentional, it matters either way. And, we, for a while, being a 3 myself is like, I'll book every weekend and then around whatever I don't book, we can do stuff for the family. And it's like, yeah, that's the best thing I can do for my family is work. And then it's like, well, you don't know your family because all you're doing is working for the people that you're trying to take care of, except for you're not taking care of them because you're working. And so like scheduling that intentionality, even if it's just buying a Frisbee and just going to the park and just spending some time, but like being intentional, and there's just something magic about writing it down. If you're a guy out there that you're, like me, I started writing down things and like reminding myself to text my wife at 10 a.m. just something good about her, just something random, like you have a cute smile, that's it, and she's like over the moon excited or whatever. And so just take that time and be intentional. And like I think in our business, I mean, there's just so many people that just kind of, well, whatever inquiries come in, that's the kind of weddings I'm gonna book, or whatever, just kind of like a boat on the water, wherever the sea takes me, that's where I'm going, as opposed to being like, no, I'm heading this way, I'm 36 degrees north by this or whatever, and so being intentional, I mean, that is a really big part of being able to charge $7,000, $8,000 if you're just kind of chilling out and your website's not really intentional and your the way you do your films is not like. Everybody should be searching themselves and saying, what do I want to infuse into these wedding films? You're talking about this moment with Grandpa, and I mean, I've got goosebumps, and I'm just like, oh, that's me. That's why I do this. It's not about, the Canon C1200 or whatever is coming out, or it's about, wow, I recorded that prayer that will live past me. And so that's why I'm sitting here being like, whenever it's my turn to talk, like that's what all's going through my head is just the intentionality. I didn't pay attention to that until like my 10th year in business. And it's like, man, if I would have just had that information, that little nugget in year 1 or 2, I'd be light years ahead of where I am now.
Yeah, it's hard don't beat yourself up about that though. I think it just boils down to intention and, and the internet doesn't really help with that. No. I feel like the focus now is always like we had this conversation, like, recently we took like a little retreat to the mountains, and like our team was just talking about 2020 and kind of what we want to focus on. We have a few opportunities to speak, so it's like, okay, what message do we want to convey when we speak to people? And we kind of had this conversation like, man, our culture, and maybe it's just in part our generation, we are totally obsessed with quantifiable affirmation. Like, how many likes did I get? How long did it take to get those likes? Am I using the latest camera settings? And, am I doing whip pan transitions? Am I doing this, that, and this? And we kind of miss the things that live past us because trends go in and out. Instagram at some point will probably go out, some time down the line. I don't know, could take a couple decades, but it's like, what is it that we really want to focus on? What makes our business successful? What is going to live past our business? And I think it may take a little bit to get there. And I feel like it's only grace that that we realize that early on, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
So tell me, what CRM do you use? If you're not sure or you don't know what a CRM is, I'm about to save you a lot of time and therefore money. CRM stands for Customer Relationship Management. Basically, a CRM is an online service that helps you better serve your clients. HoneyBook is both mine and John's CRM of choice. We absolutely love it. HoneyBook allows us to do all of our correspondence, contracts, and payments all in one place. One of the features that I love is the automated workflow. We all have emails that we send out to all of our clients, right? At 6 months, 3 months, 1 month, the week of. All of us do it. Automated workflows make it so that those emails can go out automatically. Since I don't have to take time to, 1, remember to send them out, and 2, to write them, I save time and make more money by working more efficiently. Are you interested in saving time on the business side of things? Go to howtofilmweddings.com/honeybook for a free 1-week trial. Also, because the Honeybooks really like me and John, we can give you $200 off of your first year, and that also comes with a 60-day money-back guarantee. So what are you waiting for? Go to howtofilmweddings.com/honeybook to start saving lots of time in your business. Oh yeah, legally I have to tell you that John and I are affiliates of HoneyBook.
So Elaine, what you were touching on, right there, kind of, living in this world where, we look at other people and we see, oh, they're getting all this lights, or they get to go, shoot in the mountains or Ireland or Iceland or something like. They must be like have it all figured out and have it all, their business is perfect or whatever. And then I look at myself and I'm like, well, I'm not doing those things, so therefore my business must not be good, or my business must not be right, or something like that. And I think that's a huge, misconception that a lot of people have about this industry. And I know that this was something that you brought up that you'd like to talk about. So why don't you just kind of share some of your thoughts on this subject?
Yeah, this year in particular was really interesting because I had like this slight crisis of identity in regards to our film business. And it all started up with, and I love Caitlin to death, but I'm going to throw him out here, from White and Reverie. He was like, hey, we want you to speak at Venture. And I was like, yes, we love teaching. And then I was like, oh God, we don't have a bunch of followers. And what am I going to talk about? And oh my goodness, like, our Instagram needs to be 10,000 followers tomorrow. And I was like doing all this ridiculous research of like how to build YouTube fast, how to do this, that, and the other. How do I get a celebrity wedding tomorrow? Like all this ridiculous, just this ridiculous stuff that had never passed through our mind in the first 3 years of business. We're all of a sudden like this instant necessity because people are going to be looking at me and wondering like, oh, how do I don't know, be KEJ? Is that a thing? So once I got over my crisis, I realized that none of those things are required to actually run a successful business. We go after things like, massive Instagram following, celebrity weddings, massive likes or whatever on our photos or films, What else? Like, the list never ends, right? Like, because once you get 10,000 followers, then you want 20. Once you get 20, then you want 100. You know, so it just never ends. And I realized that you can build the business that you want. Like, you don't have to live in FOMO. And we actually learned that within the first 3 years of business, and we forgot for whatever reason, because it's easy to get caught up, you know. But I have just realized that there are just massive misconceptions in the industry of what success really looks like. And for any cinematographers that are watching, like, I would just encourage you to build the relationships that you have, and not for like gain's sake of just having a relationship, but build authentic relationships with your couples, with the vendors, you know. Go out and grab a drink just because you want to kick it with them, not because they can bring you business, but actually build an authentic relationship there. And we found that, you know, even though that wasn't our intention at all, but because of the relationships, the authentic relationships that were built within our industry, videographers, our industry photographers, florists, planners, and then, of course, number one, our couples, that our business exploded. We had a bride that booked us in our first year. And, you know, we tend to stay in touch with a lot of our couples, you know, throughout the years. They're having babies now, which is awesome and everything. This particular bride, like, you know,
same week.
Yeah, we filmed her wedding, and then she was kind of there. We had no idea she was still watching our social media, but she didn't have, like, we weren't on a texting basis, if that makes sense, after her wedding. This bride reached out to us 2 years later and said, we have a commercial project for you. And she single-handedly launched our commercial company because of the company she worked for. I had no idea when we filmed her wedding 3 years ago that this bride, who we lost touch with, would be the person to launch our commercial business. You know, so it's just by building authentic relationships, by telling the stories that you want to tell, like, your business is going to work for you. You don't have to sit in FOMO and wish you were someone else.
So my question follow up to that would be, so we have this perception of what everyone, you know, you see on Instagram being successful. What does success mean to the two of you?
Taking a vacation.
Yeah, we talk about, it's funny.
That's awesome.
We talk about this hypothetical yacht that we're all going to be on one of these days. And,
like Michael Scott?
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
When I'm sitting on my yacht.
When I'm sitting on my yacht.
And that's
Obviously,
how it
I did
started.
well. I'm on a yacht.
Right, but and I think the one thing that we have always thought about is, like, we took this retreat last week, and we were like, man, we're sitting in this cabin, it's chilly outside, you know, it's an amazing view, great company. I was like, man, we made it to the yacht. Like, it's talking about, like, what are those moments that we get to live in around our people, around our family, and finding, like, that is the yacht, man. That's success to us. Mm-hmm. Like, the reality is we don't have a viral film. We don't have a huge Instagram following. We're not all these things that are made up of success. But man, we are crushing it on success whenever it comes to taking vacation or taking 2 months off, because that's what we want to do. Yeah. So I think that not just that, but having that time that we get to spend with each other, and and just you know being a way that we just are enjoying our lives and enjoying what we do, and not being stressed out about taking on too much work, and being together. So
ultimately, success to me is being able to say no and not blinking twice about it.
Yeah.
Like,
that's
just
awesome.
being like,
Yeah.
nah, I don't think that's it. You know, or if one of my colleagues, even though I wanted that Ireland wedding so bad and we were already booked, but I was like, man, this is going to be a killer opportunity for, like, someone in the venture fam. Like, yo, who's available on this date? You know, and be like, our time will come. You know, like, I'm not sitting here in FOMO like, dang it, maybe I should call that bride. And like, no, just like, you accept, like, I'm confident we're connecting with the people we're supposed to connect with, and serving the people we're supposed to serve, and going the places we're supposed to go, and like all that stuff. Like, I know we're walking where we're supposed to walk, if that makes sense. And
Yeah.
when you're doing that, you don't have FOMO.
I was going to add one little thought to this. If you're listening, I would implore you to take 10 minutes and a yellow pad and write down what success means to you. Everybody's different. Everyone's motivated by different things: money, time with family, time off, just being able to set your own schedule. And there's nothing wrong. The more honest you can be with yourself about what success means, the more that you can really focus in on that. So, success to me does look like being able to have money, but like my main thing that I love about my success is that, like, if I want to take off today, I can. Like, time is success to me. So nobody owns my time but me. And so, knowing that helped me make different decisions for my business, and makes it easy for me to say no or whatever. And so if you're listening, definitely just take 10 minutes today or tomorrow or whatever, and just write down what success looks like for you, and keep that in front of you. Keep it, on the wall. Make that your hypothetical yacht. So that's really, really good insight.
Yeah, really, really good point. I want to shift a little bit. You mentioned it a minute ago. Kaylin reached out to you, and you guys are going to be speaking at Venture in May 2020. So why don't you just kind of give us a quick breakdown maybe of the things that you think you're going to talk about? I know it's, months away right now recording this, but I'm sure you have an idea, and, maybe give a little plug about maybe why people should go.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, so we're getting to speak twice at Venture, and we're so stoked about it, because one thing that we found that has helped us is being able to know audio and loving to teach audio. And that's something that we're going to be stepping into at Venture, and teaching how we do things as a company, but also how we do things as professional audio engineers, and to make your life easier during the wedding day. The one thing that we stepped in to filmmaking with was knowing audio, and so it was second nature, and we didn't have that distraction on our mind the entire time during a wedding day. And so just creating a workflow in audio that just makes sense for filmmakers, and also knowing what audio is. Like, we always just say, oh, I need a lavalier and this is what I need to do, but it's like, do you know what your audio is doing and how you're affecting it? And so that's one of our classes that we're going to be teaching on.
And the second one will kind of be in the vein of what we spoke about, of really how to build demand and how to build a business that lasts, how to get people talking about you, because it's really how we've seen success, is through that word of mouth and people just sharing our name. And so really building a community. We're stoked. Venture was really like the first, it was the first wedding filmmaking conference that we had ever been to. It was somewhat terrifying for me that first time, because we did like a short film after a workshop we did with Jay Worsley. And I remember I showed it to Jay. I was like, hey, look at this like mini next day teaser. And he was like, this is awesome. And then the next session, the next day, he showed it to, I don't remember how many people, but it was like we don't post our work in videography forums. I've never done that. Like, if you want to see KEJ stuff, you go to like our social media. So having our stuff played for other filmmakers was so terrifying for me. Like, I can't even tell you how terrifying that was. But it kind of broke something for me, and it built our confidence, and we were able to have just amazing conversations. We built relationships at Venture that we still, till this day, we're talking to some of those filmmakers on a weekly basis, one of them on a weekly basis. It's awesome just to have that community of encouragement and resource. And so that is why you should go to Venture. The community is incredible. Yeah. It's incredible. And I know for us it was life-changing, and we're just stoked to have a part in it.
Yeah, that's awesome. I know I went to the very first Venture, and so John went to the one, this last year, but I mean, even today, like Becca being on our podcast, last week, actually, I met her at the first venture, and we've, done a styled shoot together. She's actually got me a couple weddings, and Jay and Mac, they've gotten us a few weddings, like that. So just the relationships that you build, it's just a great thing that you definitely want to mark on your calendar. It's the first week in May 2020 in Denver, Colorado, so you're going to want to check that out. So we are, coming up short on time here. We really thank you guys so much for coming on. But if someone doesn't follow you, doesn't know, where can they just learn about you or watch your films or that kind of stuff?
Yeah, it's
KEJ Productions.
It's the most unique name out there. It's called KEJProductions.com and KEJ Productions on Instagram, Facebook, and all those.
Yes, I think it's KEJ Productions Inc. on Facebook, which is kind of annoying. I probably should try and change that. But then on YouTube, it's KEJ Productions. It's KEJ Productions everywhere except Facebook, which is Inc. Yeah. You should incorporate your business, by the way, people.
Yes. That's another talk, but yes, you should.
That's another topic.
That's another topic. Well, Kaleb and Elaine, we want to thank you guys so much for coming on the podcast today. We really, really appreciated the time and liked hearing your thoughts and getting to know you guys and hearing your heart in running your business. So thank you guys so much for coming on today.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
It's a complete honor for us. Love it.
Thank you so much, Kaleb and Elaine, for being on the podcast today. We really appreciate your time. We had a lot of fun, and we're really inspired listening to you guys talk. I want to let you know about howtofilmweddings.com. We have lots of digital products. One of the things that you can buy is our consultation guide. If you don't know how to have a consultation with a potential client, you might want to check that out over at howtofilmweddings.com. If you're watching this on YouTube, please subscribe to our channel. Please rate and review us on your favorite podcatcher. And until next time, we will see ya.
See ya.